Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Major confirmations going down yesterday in the rostermania side, with NRG officially making clear two of their major roster changes that are going forward. Marved is gone, not just benched from the team, straight up dropped from the organisation. Chet, the coach of the roster, certainly has to respond to big criticism on this one, and he does so on Twitter last night, but also Demon1. This was the big story. The MVP of Champions last year on Evil Geniuses, benched from the active roster, moved into the reserves. What is going on? This is a big decision to be made by NRG. If it doesn't work out, they will face severe criticism. We believe we know the two players that are going to come in instead. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. That would greatly appreciate it. First of all, we've got some stuff on the Bleed Esports side out there in the Pacific. We saw this quite a while ago now that Bleed had confirmed Ye was going to be stepping away from active duty. Now, they said that he was stepping away, for personal reasons and stuff like this, and it wasn't necessarily him getting dropped or getting benched, but I don't think Ye's ever really clarified exactly what happened there and why. But he's officially now a reserve player for Bleed Esports. We now have, of course, the return of Crazy Guy to the roster. So this is kind of interesting, right? Because Crazy Guy had a fair bit of beef. We talked about the whole beef with Ye and all this, and now they're making his official return to the roster official, right? And we even get this from Scary, welcome back my captain, which is pretty interesting. So you've got to wonder whether, I think it was quite clear that those internal team dynamics, not the best over there at Bleed, and, well, I think we saw loads of evidence of that. So, whose camp is who in, right? Because if Crazy Guy comes back in, and if Scary's pretty happy to see so, then I don't think Ye is going to come back anytime soon. I don't think Ye's playing for this roster again. I just don't see that happening personally. I think that if he goes anywhere else, Ye, it's going to be, to North American Challengers or whatever. I guess we'll see. But, not an ideal scenario for those guys right now, but they're making the change, and we'll see if it works out for them. Let's talk though about what happened in Shanghai yesterday, because G2, they made a big comeback against Heretics. Now, this of course is not the full strength Heretics. I genuinely think this series would have been different had Mini Boo been here, but that was not the case. Mini Boo isn't here. Patty Tech came in instead, and of course he did a fine job, but in the end Heretics just had no dog within, and they got pretty bowled over as the series went on here. Trent had an uncharacteristically shocking series ready by his standards. They lost the Lotus here, and I thought at this point maybe it was going to go their way, Heretics, but no, G2 close out with a very impressive start to, well, the second half after continuing out a great first half. But look at this, 10 rounds in a row that G2 won on binds, and on the split, they won the first 8 in a row. So, yeah, when it mattered, Team Heretics just didn't deliver here, and Jonah P had a really great finish of this game as well. Like, ace clutch here for Jonah P to close out the game. You can't be losing in scenarios like this. 1 versus 3, he's already got 2 kills in the rounds. We're over-swinging here, going down to Benji Fishy, and then they decide, okay, you know what, let's go for the double chow, but they open the door to the 1 versus 3, and I don't know what these clouds were doing, to be honest. They end up losing it. Like, I think if Mini Boo was there, it'd be a different story, but of course G2 get the qualification, so they're through to the playoffs. Impressive performance from those guys, given of course, they're coming out of the North American side where they were coming out of Challengers last season. Just this result itself, right, to get to top 8 internationally is very impressive, and who knows if they can't go further. Now, they will be selected by a team, whoever whoever wants to play them. We'll discuss that a little bit more in a second. We also had Lev versus T1. This was a relatively clean 2-0 that happened here today. Aspas just completely took over. So, yeah, of course, Lev went down to the 0-1 bracket. They now took the victory here. T1, again, it's like they do quite well domestically, but when it comes to international play, they are quite vulnerable to getting exposed, I think. And in this series, it wasn't even just the Aspas show, but it was, to be fair, on the Sunset, 23-10, and there's just nothing you're going to do about that. So it was a 13-7. It wasn't like absurdly dominant, but it always felt like there was only one team that was probably going to win, and I think Rossi did a tweet about this, so we'll just have a look and find it up real quick, saying that they bowed out of the tournament out of Shanghai. Still super happy and proud of my teammates, blessed to play in the international. So T1 go out, whether they will consider any sort of changes or things going forwards, because not what they want to be, but then again, compared to their own region, we'll see how Gen.G and Paper X and those guys get on for the rest of the tournament here. But of course T1 T1 bowing out relatively early. There's also, by the way, DRG versus FUT Esports going down, and this is probably going to come to a conclusion relatively soon. To be fair though, DRG making a nice fight back here on their own Ascents pick, but it was 13-10 on the binds in favour of FUT Esports, so looks like it might go their way, but by recording, you guys will probably know better than myself. Just to look quickly then at how things are looking over in the actual schedule, because these are the teams that are advanced. So G2 are in, of course Gen.G are in, we now have T1 are out, and then depending what happens here, we're going to have another team to the 1-in-1 bracket, another team to the O2 bracket, and then of course if you're O2 you're gone, then they'll play a final game to determine which of those remaining teams. So it's going to be between Heretics, Leviathan, FPX, and probably FUT Esports, and of course they're not going to play rematches, so FUT Esports aren't going to play FPX again, for example. They'll work it out from there. And with G2 advancing through to the playoffs, we know that there has been the confirmation now that the teams that are already in the playoffs, so the teams that got the first seed internationally in their own region, they will get to choose their opponent. And Demon1, or actually Boostio, not Demon1 yet, we'll discuss him in a second. Boostio, former Demon1 teammate, said that he wants to pick G2 as their first round opponent. Now, whether they'll get the chance, that's a question, right? Because it's going to be a random draw of the 4 teams that already made it through as the number 1 seed, and the team that gets the first pick, they get to decide of the 4 advancees who they pick, and 100T, if they're the last team, then they of course will just get whoever's left effectively. But so Valin says, look Booster, you want to pick us, bring it on, pick us, and we'll smoke you type thing. So this is what I was looking forward to in terms of the storylines, that it opens the door to some good little trash talk, right? Because it's saying, look, you want to pick us, like basically that's what Boostio said. We're so confident against G2, we actually cannot lose them because of how confident we are. So wants to pick G2 or any Chinese team as their first opponent. So that's 100 Thieves' plan, and obviously they were asked the question, what about if G2 get picked by 100T, and G2 are like, yeah, bring it on, pick us, we are going to slap you around. So now he's effectively, Valent's called out Boostio, right? If they get the chance to pick G2, Boostio almost has to now, right? You can't turn it down, unless I guess there's a Chinese team that makes more sense. So we'll see on that one. But NRG, man, what an absolute mess this is. And whether these guys are going to get any better, that's a big question. We're pretty sure that Som and FNS is coming in. I mean, we know this like for sure now that Som and FNS are coming into the team. Part of me wonders whether it was necessary to make both changes, right? Like, we saw that Som was going to join, at least it was heavily rumoured that Som was going to come in for Marved, and then a little bit later we saw the FNS rumours, right? But I wonder if in any ways, it was the other way around, or like FNS was going to be linked to the team as their new in-game leader to come back into the roster, of course, as they were IGL instead of Ethan doing it anymore. Do they need Som in that scenario? I think that FNS probably wanted to team with Som, but I also do wonder whether, could you have kept Demon1 or kept Marved and, swapped around the roles somewhat? I think certainly for Demon1 that could have been the case. I'm just, the Demon1 move is crazy. Now, the Marved thing is crazy as well to me, like, given how stacked this team was. Like, I think it makes sense what they've done in the sense of Keith and Victor and Crashies. Like, they get along well, FNS, Chet, and all this stuff. But I don't know if in the long term it's the best decision. The interesting thing to me is that Marved was talking on stream that he was benched, right? As in, he'd gone to the bench and he was still on their substitute roster in case he needed to come back in. Still getting paid, obviously. But no, they've just dropped him. They've completely released Marved, saying that he is not at all part of their future plans. So, yeah, that's wild to me. They don't even want him on the bench anymore. Like, Marved, look, he didn't play his best on this specific iteration of the lineup, and something probably had to change, but Marved is still a phenomenal player. And, for him to be entirely dropped, I thought was kind of crazy. But this one is the real story of the season in many ways. Demon1, reigning world champion and MVP, joins this lineup alongside Ethan to be, superstar of the roster. Has he played great? No. But is he still, got a lot of firepower on the team? Absolutely, yes. But no, they're benching Demon1. Now, he is moving to the bench rather than getting released. He'll remain part of NRG as they prepare for Stage 2 and the rest of the season. And if this change doesn't work out, it takes some balls to make this move, to be fair. In the same way that for Potter, when, BCJ was dropped for Demon1, that was a big balls move, and of course it worked out for those guys, emphatically so. This is another thing entirely, though, because you're not bringing in an unknown quantity like Demon1 was when he joined that team. You're bringing in FNS and Som, who you kind of know what they should be capable of on paper, but, they're not going to have the firepower, right, that this older iteration had. Getting rid of Marved and Demon1, you do lose a lot of firepower, I think. And maybe the team can make up for it with good team play, and they can become something like 100 Thieves, where they have, good firepower, but nothing maybe insane from top to bottom on the team, and yet it's still good enough because they've got great team play. Maybe there's something in that, but Demon1 says I'm going to become streamer 1. I'm going to talk about it more next time I stream. So yeah, wow, what a scenario that we find ourselves in here. And even BCJ says, first time, right, to Demon1 getting benched in these type of scenarios. Yeah, absolute mess. What do NRG do then going forwards? Because the feeling is that FNS and Som are coming in. It's going to be Victor, Crashies, and Ethan. As I said, maybe there's a world in which you could have kept Demon1 and not needed Som, and then you could change the roles around or whatever. Like, I think they needed to change their IGL because it wasn't working with Ethan. But, getting rid of Demon1, it's got to be on some level an internal thing. Like, it has to be some degree of team culture breakdown on some level, because Demon1's too good to get replaced for purely performance reasons, even if he wasn't playing his best stuff. So the pressure now falls onto Chet, really, the head coach, the decision maker. He did a tweet that he then deleted, and he was asked the question, maybe you're the problem, and he was getting cooked here in the replies. And as he says, look, okay, then they can release me too. So he says, look, if they want to make a change in this role, if they think I'm making bad decisions, they're free to get rid of me. And look, if this change doesn't work out, that probably happens. I'll be straight up. Like, if this roster doesn't get any better, and if their challenge to make the World Championship doesn't become significantly more competitive from now to the end of the season, then it could be a very different story. And, even Kruger says, can't believe you have to depend on FNS and Som to win. Your coaching skills have been exposed without the GOAT IGL. Literally came from Coach Tier 1 for 6 years before Optic, right? So, we'll see if this works out. Chet obviously backs himself to have made the right decision here. Ethan says he's going to be at full strength soon with, FNS back on the team. Busia says you need it, and of course he's racing these guys from the 100T perspective, and of course Som says day off again, i.e. scrimming again. So, what do you guys think about this? A crazy scenario. Is it going to work out for NRG? I'm not so convinced. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.